This Casual Friday is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club.
No one's cooler than PewDiePie.
You are a son of a bitch. Do you want to know why?
I would. Do I want to know?
I kind of know.
Am
why.
I going to be happier knowing why? Why?
Probably.
Why am I?
Because it's going to put you in a position of even more smugness, probably.
Oh, Mamma Mia! Why am I a son of a gun?
Because you got to see Child of Light this week.
I
I've been
did.
waiting for Child of Light forever.
And when I was interviewing Jeffrey Yohalam, he made a really interesting point. It's not something you haven't heard before, but it's fun to hear a developer say it, that there is this middle ground between like $10 indie games and $60 big budget games, and like no one up until recently has been trying to bridge that gap and make the sort of middle between the two, like a decently long, an art game with a budget, basically, is what he was talking about.
Do you know the only people who have been taking advantage of that for the last 5 years have been Valve, right? Because everybody is looking for a game that gives you a little bit more than you get from a $5 or $10 indie, which are super fun and can give you tons and tons of enjoyment, right? Like there are tons of $10 indies that I've played forever.
Some of my favorite games. Some of my best friends are $10 indie games.
Seriously, I can't name any off the top of my head, but I swear I know plenty of them, and we're cool and we hang out all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying.
But the deal is Steam sales, right? So everybody's looking at these AAA games, and it's like, Steam sale's gonna come, and I'm gonna get all these for 20 bucks. I'm gonna get all these for 30 bucks.
Right.
And I don't think developers were paying enough attention to that.
Exactly, and you bring up an excellent point with Valve, because if you really kind of break it down, Portal and Team Fortress 2 were kind of like kicking the door open for this. Hey, it's a really great game with a budget behind it, but if you break it down, it was only 20 bucks.
Yeah.
It's something that I kind of miss from the generation before the last generation, like before the 360 era. I feel like
Katamari?
Yeah, Katamari was one of those games that was 20 bucks when it came out. One of my favorite games ever, Phantom Dust, was 20 bucks when Majesco picked it up, like, and launched it. Like that, like budget games don't exist in our current system. There's the $10 indies and the $6 retails, and the budget games that do exist are woefully bad games that slip out on Steam and are just like, what was that weird Hell game, Drive Hell, Hell Driver. There was some just garbage can Steam game last year. That's what came of those sort of middle tier games. They all turned into shovelware.
Well, and I mean, if you look at Steam Greenlight and you look at a bunch of indie stuff, there are games that are $10 to $15 to $20 that have a little bit more art or a little bit more content. I mean, obviously, we just saw the re-release of Fez on PlayStation platforms, but that's been 20 bucks since Go.
And I remember that being one of the first times I saw a game that, like the $15 creep from 10 to 15, the beginning of this trend. Right. Fez was one of the first big examples of it, but it was also one of the first ones where I was like, yeah, totally, I'll pay for that. It's been working on it for 4 fucking years. I'll buy that.
I think that was set with Castle Crashers, right? Castle Crashers came out at 10, and everybody was like, that's how much you pay.
The right length of experience, everything.
It's, building on that again, is that now we're in this era where games are becoming so expensive.
Yeah.
$60 games, the development times are just, it's like, we put $150 million into
You're saying not expensive
game.
for the consumer, expensive to make.
Expensive for the company.
Yeah.
So now,
well, it's becoming less and less. It's becoming less and less satisfying for the consumer too.
Exactly.
As these prices go up and campaigns stay around like 10 to 15 hours.
And so I think the larger companies are looking at this whole indie game. I wouldn't even renaissance, if you will, and they're looking at it saying, "Hey, we can do the same thing and actually put a whole bunch of people behind it and get it out on time."
I think the main concern that people probably have, though, is you look at a AAA indie game like Far Cry, Far Cry 3, which the same guy did Child of Light.
Right, same writer.
And then you look at Child of Light, and you're like, well, they clearly put this together really quickly. If AAA developers and publishers start embracing this shorter, cheaper games thing, what happens to our big budget
games,
super crazy franchise? Because it begins to feel, I think, to a lot of people like mobile games, right? The race to 99 cents. Or even when you saw the Fire HD released this week, and Amazon's like, oh, games are going to cost $1.85 for this thing.
Yeah, on average.
And everybody's like, what kind of games are we looking at in the future?
We're talking about Android games that have been like retrofitted to have controller support. Probably is what realistically that's got to be what we're talking about.
So, but that's what everybody's scared of, right? If all these big developers go, we can make a game for 20 bucks. People are happy with indie games. People are happy with small games. I guess what happens? Is there still
that fear seems so silly to me. I'm sorry. It's just like I don't think a few examples make a trend. It's the same people who kind of started panicking when exploration games with minimal gameplay started coming out, like Gone Home and Stanley Parable. People were like, oh my god, it's like there's never going to be another Gears of War, practically, is what they're saying. I'm like, dog, no, like your shit still exists. Everything's fine, calm down. It's one game that's trying something new. It's
Although
not
the new
ending
Gears
the
of
world.
War is Marcus Phoenix just sort of exploring his
parents'
hometown.
house,
Parents'
yeah.
house, yeah. What I do think
Exactly.
we are going to see is very much like film studios, where 20th Century Fox is like, oh, we have Fox Searchlight. That's where we're going to do
For sure.
all of our indie stuff, but it's still going to be underneath our banner, and we're still going to collect all the money for the larger company.
Totally. Sure.
And I think we're going to see smaller splinter cell companies inside of larger companies that are
In night vision goggles.
in night vision, that's
hiding up in the corner.
hiding up in the corner, going, "Hi, my whole game's gonna be in pastel."
Is that your Sam Fisher?
Yes, that's my art school Sam Fisher.
Before he got
okay.
real tough.
hard to split
He
the difference between
reinvented
those two.
himself afterwards.
Yeah, and that's another point that Yohalim made when I spoke to him was like, movies have this. Movies
do
have
have
things like Juno or something that are indie, but they're budgeted indie. And
Well, comics have it
it
too.
fleshes it out to have
Yeah,
that.
oh,
middle
You look at
Definitely
Image,
comics.
like Image is entirely that. Image started off as like, we're gonna give big budgets to independent creators and let them be as lavish as they
And
want.
anime has it.
Anime has it.
Trigger, who made Kill la Kill, made that with a relatively small budget for an anime studio, and they were highly independent. It was their first TV show ever, and it's awesome, and it feels as good as any, well, better than most shows I think that are out there.
I think one thing that we see from game jams and from things like Amnesia Fortnite is if you give a small team enough to work out the concepts and the mechanics, you could potentially just add more content later, right? If you give somebody, okay, well, we're going to develop this, we're going to develop the nuts and bolts of this thing in a couple months with 3 or 4 people, and then if it's good enough, we'll release it for $20. If it's really good, let's just give it a ton more content and make that a retail title.
So where does Goat Simulator fit in? Anthony?
Goat
That's what I wanna
Simulator
know.
is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of high quality entertainment.
I don't know how they could sell that game for as cheap as they did.
I don't know. They're undercutting themselves.
gotta be at a loss.
Goat Simulator is a loss leader.
They want to get Goat Simulator into homes, kind of like the Xbox 360.
Sure.
It's a wise move. Good business tactics.
I agree.
We did it. We made every video this week about Goat Simulator. Cheers.
Oh,
Congrats
hooray.
to us. Every video is a Goat Simulator
Yay!
video. So me and Anthony are stubbly, and Scott can't grow facial hair, but if you want to be all nice and smooth like this hard-boiled egg that I found, you should go to Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club sells razors at a fraction of the cost of the big guys. It's not just razors either. They also have Dr. Carver's Easy Shave Butter or One Wipe Charlie's Butt Wipes. Shave time, shave money, and join now at dollarshaveclub.com/rev3games.